Synergy, I need you to project the podcasters of the Geekcast Radio Network right now, because it's showtime, Synergy.
Hi, this is Christy Marks, creator of Gem and the Holograms, and you're listening to a truly outrageous podcast with Mike, Amy, and Nicole. It's Showtime, Synergy.
Hello and welcome to Showtime Synergy, the Gem Review podcast here on the Geekcast Radio Network. I am your host, Em, and joining me are my misfit girls, Amy, aka Lady Rick. Hello.
Was that Em and Jamie? What, huh?
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, just...
You know who we are. We're the crazy ladies that bother him. That hopefully keep everybody laughing.
11 episodes of love. We're talking about 3 more. Crap. See what you made me do? Damn it.
Crap. We're already starting it. It's the crap. It's the crap that hits the fan.
In this episode, we'll be giving you our thoughts on the next 3 episodes of Gem and the Holograms Season 2. So today we have Father's Day, Aztec Enchantment, and what's the other one? The Treasure Hunt. That's right, the Treasure Hunt. So we're gonna get to Father's Day after this.
Shook. I keep on searching, but it's nowhere I look. Something is missing in my life. Won't somebody tell me where it's gone? Something is missing in my life. Somebody tell me where I've gone wrong with my life. I move around, keep going day and night, looking for answers, but they're nowhere in sight. Something is missing on a bus or walking down the street. Lost and incomplete. Whoa, something is missing in my life. Will somebody tell me where it's gone? Something is missing in my life. Somebody tell me where I've gone wrong with my life. Something is missing in my life. Something is missing in my life. Something is missing in my life.
First up today is Father's Day. The air date for this one was October 1st, 1980.
Sorry.
It's not a Bonnie episode either.
Yeah, it's not. That's kind of shocking, actually.
You'd expect it to be, but, hey, it wasn't.
It's a Kimber turns mopey episode.
Yeah, or Kimber, yeah.
Kimber turns into Rio episode.
Exactly.
The cool thing is that this is another Roger Sliver episode.
Yes, it is. It's Father's Day, and Kimber is having a bad time trying to remember her late father, but learns to cope after having a talk with Pizzazz's father after the two bond when Kimber gets hurt horseback riding. Mr. Gabor helps Kimber cope with her loss and relates how his wife left him and his daughter, leading to their strained relationship and his attempts at buying her affection. Also, the Holograms and Misfits visit Clash in Video's hometown for a Father's Day banquet. The featured songs are Something Is Missing in My Life, which is a reused song, Let's Blow This Town by the Misfits, which is a new song, and You're Always in My Heart by Gem and the Holograms, which is a new song. Other songs featured When It's Only Me and the Music by Gem and the Holograms, which is another reused song. I like this one. I thought it was pretty good overall.
It's a really good. I have to say, out of all of the episodes, this is the one that really kind of, it has this flavor that's just really, I mean, it's it has an emotional tone that is very mature, but yet completely appropriate for a kid's show. I mean, for a kid's show, this is one of those really complex topics to really illustrate. But they do so in such a great way by all the connections to the characters and the family situations that it really made it one of my, I have to say, after watching it, one of my memorable episodes, to be honest. I mean, every time I see one of these emotional shows, I can remember vividly, my reaction to them as a kid. I mean, with this one, I had friends who didn't have, fathers or mothers or whatnot. And one in particular that I had that was especially who had been told that her father died, and she found out later that he hadn't died, that he had just been abusive and left, and it was a really hard time for her for a little while because of that. And it was sort of brought up around the time that we actually saw this episode. So who knows, maybe it was sparked by it, I don't know. But it was just to have something like that that gives voice to a complex family issues that children face, because a lot of them do, for it to pull it off so honestly, I think is a really great benefit to your listening audience. I mean, whether you're a kid or you're a parent watching it with your child, I mean, even Pizzazz's reaction to seeing her father with Jem and the holograms, like her reaction is very much how I envision someone like her to react. It's incredibly complex, but it's absolutely authentic. So, I mean, it's complex in the motion of her reaction and the reaction of her father, but, she feels betrayed and he can't control her, and they fall right back into the same habits that they have probably had for years, which is another element of family life that I think speaks to an audience as being genuine as well. So, I mean, that voice that's coming from a kid's show to watch this again and look back and go, wow. I mean, it just gives this level of realism that you don't get in most TV shows. And because of that voice, I would have absolutely no problem letting my kids watch this. And I think it's appropriate for any age at any era. And that makes it a long lasting, episode too, because, you can watch it and share it because the complexity of the relationships. I don't think that'll ever change because human beings are very complex creatures.
Yes, we are. Thoughts on the plot, Nicole?
See, this was one of those ones that I didn't know what it was going to be about. I remember watching it back in the day, but like Amy, it's one of those ones you watch it and it kind of hits you in a different way than probably than when you were younger. But it's one of those episodes that now that I'm older probably would stick with me longer than some of the other episodes. More the fun, go get 'em adventure types. This is one of those ones that makes you think about your relationship with your family, and I've really enjoyed this episode. This is character development right here, this episode, because I mean, like the whole thing with Pizzazz and Harvey, and you actually see what kind of person Harvey is. He's not just a businessman. He does have a heart, and I really enjoy that too. So,
well, no, that is, he has a heart, and he'd like to have a better relationship with his daughter. And you also look on her. You can also see from her side how betrayed she feels that he helped them, which is it's just kind of like, wow, because that's how a daughter, like in her position, who has been written the way that she has, that's how she would feel. Because she's the leader, but she's also kind of self-centered. But you know what? A lot of children are very self-centered too. So this is not a bad thing. This is just kind of,
Are you saying that Pizzazz is
going?
Are you saying Pizzazz is going through a phase?
No, this is a phase that she's been going through for a very long time.
Yeah.
But it's acknowledging the fact that even he as a character kind of maybe even recognizes where that stems from.
Well, he says it in the episode. It stems from the fact that her mother left them.
Yeah. And he's a businessman, and maybe being parenting does not come naturally to all people. Just saying.
Got it. Wow. I just realized that Pizzazz and her father are the 80s version of Marla and her dad from A League of Their Own. Even though Pizzazz is not as ugly as Marla was, it's one of those things where Pizzazz's father is like like Marla's father in A League of Their Own, because he raised her to be a boy.
Mm.
You know, play baseball, all that, and everything else. Obviously, Harvey didn't do that here. But yeah, I mean, this is a great episode. I mean, as a kid who comes from divorced parents, it kind of hits home, because it's one of those things for me. For the most part, I was a good kid. I was an only child, so I was spoiled rotten, but for the most part, I was a good kid. But I do remember throwing a few temper tantrums every now and then.
Yeah.
I wasn't as bad as Pizzazz, though. I had a little bit more common sense than she does.
Well, you know, she's a different person, different personality.
True.
And you know, Daddy is really rich.
Yeah.
So you never know how much that'll spoil a kid.
That's true, too. Well, like for me, I mean, you know, my parents got divorced when I was 2. My dad remarried when I was 7. I was so not into that.
No.
Oh yeah.
I just was so against it. Like, it was fine when she was his girlfriend and all this and all that and everything else. That was fine. But once
It became official, yeah.
Marriage is kind of a final thing. It's kind of like, okay, you're not with my mom anymore, but you're going to go be with this person. You're going to, you know, have a piece of paper that says you're with this person, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, it turned out that that living situation didn't work out too well for me at one point or another, and I had to eventually become a, you know, ward of the state of Kentucky, and went through the life that I've gone through, which is fine. I don't think I've seen my dad since 2001. I don't think I've talked to him since 2006. I know he lives somewhere in southern Indiana,
Yeah.
which is just across the bridge from, you know, here in Louisville, Kentucky, but it's one of those things where, you know, 93 to 95, those 2 years, just kind of, the whole relationship between the two of us just went completely down the drain because of, basically, my stepmother physically and verbally abused me for close to 2 years that I was living with them. So, you know, shit happens. But I mean, you know, this is one of those episodes that makes me reflect on the good times with my dad. And, you know, every now and then I have the urge to try to find him, and he's never been, I mean, he's kind of one for technology, but not really, so I know he's not on Facebook or any of that kind of stuff, so it's not like I can find him that way.
It'd be a little bit harder to get in touch with him, that type of thing.
Yeah, I'd have to contact some of the other family members on his side, et cetera, and all this and all that and everything else.
Yeah.
But
that's the, I mean, you look at the 80s, and that was kind of the thing. I mean, blended families have come out of that. I mean, half my friends had family situations like that, where they were just separate, or, you know, that type of thing. And then the other half, you know, I also had family, extended family and whatnot. So it's just like, you know, it's just goes to show. And then on top of that, like, you get the complexity of, they're not just showing two families, like, they're showing Clash and her family. They're showing Video and her family. So it's like, there's just so many family dimensions that are kind of just thrown into one episode. I mean, it almost comes to a point where you kind of feel like, wow, there's just so much family drama going on here. But, you know, that's so many people can, you know, look at different parts of this episode specifically, no matter what family type you come from, and you can probably relate on some level to something that's going on here. I mean, you know, whether you lose a family member or you split off for a divorce, or, you know, that type of thing, it just kind of hits so many dynamics, so many of the demographic out there, that I think this episode would speak to a lot of different people on a lot of different levels for a lot of different reasons because of that. And that just goes to give variety to your audience in such a way. It's going to resonate with people for different reasons too. So it was a really good episode to see so much in that. And I kind of feel like I'm not even doing it justice by even talking about it the way they were talking about it.
Well, I mean, you look at how different Video and Clash's families are. I mean, their fathers are like two sides of the same
Yeah.
coin. I mean, it's just like I don't know. I was kind of hoping for some, not necessarily emotionally scarring backstory, but I was kind of hoping for something that a little bit like, not just because her dad is the way he is, that's why Clash is the way that she is, but like something that happened to her that made her the way she is and how she acts and whatever else. I was wanting just a little bit more in that respect, other than just being the obnoxious side of the family.
Yeah.
But
Well, and the other thing
yeah.
is that she is supposed to be a sub character, a supporting character. So to actually get more about, we get Kimber's experiences, we get Pizzazz's and her father's experience, just kind of a little bit backstory there. But the other ones are like Video and Clash. They are characters, but they aren't like the main characters. So the fact that we got a little bit of something from them is kind of a good thing. But they didn't want to get too detailed and too complex with it because they are not the main characters. So I can understand why they kind of made it a little more, something easy that could combine the two without having to get too incredibly complex with, everybody has a different family dynamic. It turns out that those two are actually shared. It gives it a unique thing to those two because they turn out to be opposites, but yet have the same background. But I liked that because I thought, hey, that happens too. I mean, I had a cousin that I had a moment with when we went out to visit them back when I was a kid, because all of my family lived back east. So we went out there like once every 5 to 8 years. And so I had never met my cousins at the first time I met them. And we had this butt heads situation. But now it turns out that, we're actually, whenever I've talked with her, she's like, it was just like a little kid moment that you have. We had a disagreement and she wanted it her way. And I was like, I don't think so. And it was a little tense for a little while, but we got over it because we were just little kids when it happened. I mean, geez. But, it's something that's relatable. I guess I could look at that and say, hey, that was my Clash Video moment.
I will say that one last thing about the plot here is I'm glad they gave the daddy issues to Kimber and not Jerica because, okay, sure, we've seen Kimber in several different storylines throughout the first season and, almost halfway through the second season, but it would have been, like, Jerica and Jem, that character has way too much going on without having to have a breakdown and everything stop. Like, she has to be the glue to keep the band together and do all the stuff and everything else. So I'm glad that they threw it on Kimber and spotlighted her because...
And it would make sense because Jerica was the older sister.
Right.
She would have had a little bit more maturity on her sister being able to handle some of the things that happened a little bit better. And even what it looks like to me is that, she had a little bit more time with Dad where Kimber didn't. And so, it's just the emotional maturity between the two of them is different at the time of that happening. And it'll always be different because Jerica's always going to be older. Kimber's always going to be younger. So it made perfect sense that the younger sister would have some more of those issues. But then we also have the personality differences, is that the fact that Jerica is she's the responsible one, and that's been clearly illustrated all the way up until this point. Kimber is kind of like the girl that just gets to go play and have fun and not really, to an extent, she doesn't have to really put on the responsibility as much as Jerica does. So it would make sense that she would be the one that would have an issue with this.
Well, see, I guess my mom could relate to this because her father walked out on their family when she was just young, but her oldest sister is 16 years older than her. So she knew her father, her sister knew her their father, she had relationships with him, and so she still had good memories of him. My mom was like 4, so she didn't
Yeah.
have any good memories of him. So yeah, I could see where it could play, because Jerica she had that establishment, she had that relationship with them. So
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, let's get to the hologram moments after this.
Let's blow this town that's up and split. I've had enough of it. Enough of it. Let's blow this town, let's disappear. I've had it up to here. With this 2-bit boring bad news bird, filled with nothing to do. Not a soul in the street that I'd like to meet, and I'm getting tired of you. Yes, you. Blow this town, it's up and split. I've had enough of it. Let's blow this town, let's disappear. I've had it up to here. This place is getting to me. It's really bringing me down. I'm so turned off and being bored. I'm nearly out of my gourd. Let's go. Come on, let's go. Let's blow this town, let's up and split. I've had enough of it. Let's blow this town, let's disappear. I've had it up to here. Let's blow this town.
All right, it is time for the hologram moments for Father's Day. Oh, Mulberry is Mayberry. It's like we were just talking about Andy Griffith off air. It's like, holy crap.
that was true.
Awesome.
Jim and the Sing-Alongs line again.
I love
Yeah.
it.
So that's 2 times that she said
Yes,
that.
but the first time was much more epic.
True. And holy hell, Mrs. Bailey shows back up.
I know.
At least Kimber finally worked out her own daddy issues.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Now this is me reaching on this one, but the jet that they were using, I'm like, hey, look, it's Silverbolt from G1.
Yeah, I thought that too.
What do you got, Amy?
I like that although Kimber is grumpy, there are several moments that that she's not really grumpy about being upset about her father being gone. It's about just, she's not really grumpy. Like I said, going back to this whole illustration of emotions, it's hard enough to kind of illustrate those in a kid's show, but the fact that they just did a really good job of she's grumpy, but her real reasons for being grumpy aren't because she's grumpy, it's because of her daddy issues. So, and I think we get that without having to really analyze that too much. I did review this like late last night, so I'm like, my brain, all of my notes on it are like all deep and I'm like, let's see here. Like I said, I really like shows that do this. So anyhow, I like the fact that Pizzazz's dad is the one who helps out Kimber.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the complex reasoning that he gives for Pizzazz as well. Like, hey, it's probably my fault because, all this stuff. It just, I think I've pretty much, a lot of the moments that I have with this show are just the authenticity of how the characters portrayed their relationships. I think most of this show is pretty much a hologram moment. Oh, goodness. So that's me, yeah.
What about you, Nicole?
I agree with you. This whole episode was awesome. With one thing I really liked about the very beginning, Pizzazz actually wants to do something for her father.
Yeah.
She's the one, she's like, I want to do something for my dad. And I was just like, you know what? I honestly think she loves him. She really does. It's not just the act, her daddy act. I think she really does care for him. And it's kind of nice to know that she has a heart. Might be the same size as the Grinch's, but it's there.
Just need to make it grow 3 times bigger.
Yeah. I also enjoyed hearing about Pizzazz's background with her mom and everything. I mean, it kind of gives a little insight to why she is the way she is. And one thing I picked up is Kimber's doctor is Doc Martin. I enjoyed that. I'm like, Doc Martin, nice. And of course, I'm just going to end on I just love Harvey. He was one of my favorite characters from last season, and he's probably going to do it again. He's not in it all that much, but every time he's on, I just love Harvey.
He is a really good, interesting character because sometimes you never know how the add-on characters are going to strike you, and he's just one of those ones that's like, it's always good to see him when he shows up, and the fact that he's the guy that helps helps out Kimber, it felt right. You know what I mean? It was just so appropriate, like how that was staged and how everything pulled off. And it just felt like, oh, he's like your favorite grandpa.
And you could tell he does love his daughter, and I really like that relationship. It's not perfect, but you could tell there's love there. It's and I kind of enjoyed that. I'm just like, I want to see more Harvey and Pizzazz moments. There's really not. I mean, it was a really good episode. So yeah.
I think we are going to skip the Misfit moments. The only thing that I had written down was I wish the rest of the band would treat Kimber a little bit better. Like, actually go out and talk to her. Like, instead of making her look like she's an emotional brat in the episode, which at one point she does kind of come off that way because she won't tell anybody what the hell's wrong with her. Yeah. But if they would have just asked, hey, Kimber, what's going on? Talk to her,
Yeah,
that's
but would she really say? Because sometimes people don't want to talk about their issues when they have them because, I mean, if I was asked the first or second or even third time sometimes, I wouldn't say right off. I mean, I'd get to it eventually, but.
Right, but for me, the attempt on their part would have been nice than just brushing it off as, oh, it's Kimber being her bratty self.
Yes, but she has been that in the past.
Well, she has, but this is a little different.
True, but they don't know that.
Yeah, true. All right.
Communication, it's complex.
Yes, we are going to move on to the next episode.
I was going to say, too, I do have two Misfit moments.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I do. I was going to say, Pizzazz's sweatshirt, I'm not a fan. Her sweater, it's just like, ew, it's just this clashy colors that I'm like, it's very 80s, but it's like...
It's an 80s grandma sweater.
I just looking at it, and it's not the only time that we see it. We see it again, I think in the next two episodes as well. And I had to point that out. That's a Misfit moment. That is a Misfit wardrobe right there. And then the only other thing that I wanted to point out that I thought, maybe that's a little Misfit moment-ish, is the fact that you think that after so many years with Video and Clash, that people would know better when who's being sensational and who's souping up things and who's actually really lying or not, because I would have to say that there have probably been these moments where it's happened before. And why would everybody, you'd think that they'd already have a name for themselves, being the family that they are. So other than that, everything else was great. So
I only had one problem with the episode, and that was when the Concorde was landing. That's not going to happen. Those roof on that house would have been gone. That's the only thing I was just like, nah.
Yes, but the thunder of their entrance would have been ruined if they had just kind of walked up.
Oh, the Concorde.
Ah, yes.
That was one of my dreams to fly the Concorde, and that's never going to happen now. Yeah.
All right, we're going to go treasure hunting after this.
Woo!
Take the time to give of yourself. Take the time to share. Take an hour and dreams will flower. Take the time to care. Take the time to open your heart. Find some time to spend. You can reach them, make time to teach them. Try to be your friend. Take the time to see it through. Take the time, they'll adjust, and you'll win their trust in you. Take the time to listen a while. Hear what they're dreaming of. If only more did, how they'd be rewarded. Take the time to love.
All right, up next is The Treasure Hunt. The air date for this one was October 5th, 1987. The Starlight Girls compete with the Misfits in training in a treasure hunt for literacy. In the end, they learn that knowledge is the greatest prize of all. Featured songs are Take the Time, Gem and the Holograms, Ahead of the Game, The Misfits. Is that a reuse? I feel like that's ahead of the game.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And Open a Book by Gem and the Holograms. I liked this one. I thought this was kind of cool.
It was really good to kind of focus on the Starlight Girls, and it's not like drama filled. This one's just kind of like, hey, we're going to do a little treasure hunt thing, and it was kind of fun and unique, and I liked it for that reason. Mm-hmm. So it was really good for that.
Absolutely. We have any other thoughts on the plot?
Oh, yes. Too bad they didn't have Google during this time.
That's the best one I have in my hologram moments is Jen invented Google, basically, because TechRat actually invented Google.
Yeah, he did.
Put it in a search engine, voila, it came up. Really, Jen was ahead of its time.
It was. It was absolutely ahead of its time, yeah. They had so many great ideas. It spurred so much. And all of these little ideas got into the heads of their listening audience. And what do you know? 20 years later, what do we have? We have technology, yo.
Kind of reminds me of Tron Legacy. What's Wi-Fi? Wireless interlinking of digital devices. Oh, I thought of that in '85. I like this one. Like I said, I think it's interesting because
I don't think they could do an episode like this today because there's Google.
Well, yeah, but it would probably be like a geotagging kind of thing, and Well,
they could do it for like on a game show or something when you're not connected to the internet.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, no, I like this one. I think it's really cool that we, see a non-dramatic spotlight on the Starlight Girls. I mean, there is a little bit of drama, but that's more for the Misfits in training. And I know they got them off the street, but holy crap. Those girls are just like the Misfits,
Mm-hmm.
well, with the exception of Stormer. But, and that's one thing I meant to mention in Father's Day. We see origins so far in the series. We've seen origins for Pizzazz and Stormer. We've seen where Jeddah comes from. Poor little Roxy is out in the middle of an island on some little rinky-dink boat just waiting for an origin story.
Oh, don't worry. We'll get there.
I love her origin story, too.
She's crazy, and that's why we love her so much. And her origin story is just as crazy as she is.
Are you talking about Roxy or Nicole?
Oh.
My life isn't that interesting, believe me.
No. If I wrote it, then it would be great. Kind of like that obituary thing that you shared with us.
I know.
Oh, God.
That obituary is awesome.
Yes, outtakes will be fun.
Thoughts on the plot, Nicole?
Again, it's one of those episodes. I remember watching this when I was younger and thinking, I want to do something like this. I think it would be really fun. I would have been able to get a couple of the questions right. I knew who Hiawatha was, but I'm like, where did he grow up at? Gitchy
Yeah, some of those questions were really tough. I think I remember a few questions. I think as a kid, because you're like, oh, I'm not there, but I wonder if I could guess it, And I think I might have gotten a couple right, but it's just a long time ago.
The Alice in Wonderland, I had that one. That was easy.
Yeah.
Thanks, Disney. Really.
Thank you, Disney.
And the Three Musketeers. Again, thank you, Disney.
I thought it was really cool because the reason why I liked this episode, especially being back a kid at the time, because that's when I actually started picking up books for the first time and started reading. And so I liked it because of that, because I was like getting into books at the time, and I was seeing how, opening a book and, you get your world, finding different worlds and things like that. So that's one of the reasons why this episode as a kid really appealed to me. And even now going back, the sentimental value is still there. I'm like, oh yes, I like opening a book for the same reason. Go get lost in the pages of some book somewhere. Fun times.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I actually as a kid, I thought I was the third Hardy Boy when I was reading the Hardy
that's so
Boys case
cute.
files. The Hardy Boys case files, they were so... Because the case file series was... I would always find them randomly. Like, I remember the first one I ever read was number 42, The Last Laugh, which, ironically, had to do with some comic convention. So I think the first time I ever heard of a comic convention was out of the Hardy Boys books in the 80s.
Awesome.
But there's so many of those books from the case files part of that series that I could just read them over and over and over again and just dive in and really visualize, stuff like that jumping off the page and just circling around in my brain. And it was just so great. But yeah, no, this is such a good message about, books, get us into stuff and, teach us things and everything else.
Besides Google.
Well, it's the whole thing now in this day and age. It's like, hey, kids, go pick up a book. Nah, I'd rather just use this e-reader.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing.
Like I put this up on my Facebook page a while ago, but one of my very favorite moments, just simple pleasures in life, I just say, is getting a brand new hardback book and breaking that spine, hearing that spine break. I'm like, oh, I don't know. It's one of those little moments in life. I'm like, I love this feeling of a brand new book in my hand. Oh yeah.
I like the tactile feeling of having books in my hand. I mean, I've had opportunity. I have I have devices that have e-reader stuff on it, and I've only used it maybe once or twice. Most of the time, I do actually like going down and actually, if I don't buy the book, going to the library, getting the book, and bringing it home and actually sitting and reading, because I'll do that for series that I'm already involved with I like the author, I like their style of writing. I go ahead and go out and get the book, even though I have other devices and whatnot that I could just read it that way. I mean, if I'm going on a distance out of town or whatever, whatnot, I like to have the digital option. But for the most part, when I actually sit down and actually choose to read a book, it's usually an author I already like, and I like to be able to sit down and just enjoy the act of reading. So I will get a book and I will you turn pages and everything. I think that I've done both, and so I can get the same experience with both, but there's just something different about actually sitting down and having a book and turning the pages, and the tactile feeling that goes with it cannot be replicated any other way.
No, it can't. And for me with books is like nowadays I don't have time to read an actual book. I don't even have time. That's why I love audiobooks.
Yeah, and I do audiobooks too, because I like to listen to things while I'm cleaning my house, so I multitask. But I know a lot of people that can't do that.
Right.
A couple my mom says that she can't do it. If I give her an audiobook, she says I start trying to clean my house, but then I end up sitting down and listening to it. And I'm like, well, you got to keep moving. But then I also think about the time, why it works for me is when I was a kid growing up, sometimes I would get on a phone call with my friends in my bedroom, and I would clean my room while I was talking to my friends. And so I'm like, I've always done that. So I'm like, it's something that I've always done. So I'm like, I think it's just something that I learned to do a long time ago. And so that's why I can multitask and listen to a book and clean my house at the same time.
I love audiobooks because that's what I do for work. I can't talk at work, people. Can you believe that? So I listen to podcasts and audiobooks, and so, yeah, it keeps me entertained.
One of these days, Nicole is going to go postal.
I had my postal moment earlier this year. It was not
Lord.
pretty.
No.
I was going to say, but you already had a postal moment?
I did. I got so angry, I tried to beat up a granite slab.
Oh, jeez.
And
Did you break your hand?
I think I fractured it.
Oh, ow, woman.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Bone against granite. Who will
Yeah.
win?
Yeah.
It comes with the job. It comes with the territory. It's like, yeah.
All right, we have gone completely off
I
the track
know.
here. We're going to get back on track with the
So we're
hologram
talking about
moments.
reading.
Yeah.
We're talking about reading.
After
Yeah.
this, well, yeah. All right, hologram moments coming up.
Ahead of the game, you gotta stay ahead of the game.
Alright, it's time for hologram moments. A very fun episode. I like that they did this because we get to see so little of the Starlight Girls, as I've already said.
And they weren't annoying, and that was good.
Very good, very good. And the funny thing is, as a kid, I actually have done several of these things when I was, much little, much cuter, and, half the weight that I am now. But it's one of those things where I remember doing outdoor stuff like this, even though I am so not the outdoorsy type of person. When I was in state's custody, and I was 14, 15, somewhere around there, they took us all on one of these nature training quest kind of things where everybody has to be on teams, everybody has to help everybody out, and even back then I was kind of a heavy kid and at 14, 15 years old, and they had this thing where you've got to go over the rope bridge, and it's like if you fall, you fail, and it's like, there's no way in hell 5 other people are going to be able to lift me over this damn thing. There's just, because that's what they had to do. The other people we had to lift each person over to accomplish it. I'm like, there's just no way in hell.
Yeah.
What about you, Amy?
I like that in this episode, and it makes sense because, of course Pizzazz is going to interfere with the girls, and, Jem truly stayed out of it. She's like, nope, it's up to you guys. I'm just the supervising adult here. I love the fact that Eric destroys Tech Rat's tech this time around and not Pizzazz.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey, yeah. Yep. Okay, so I love the fact that the end prize was first edition books, because, that actually really truly is a treasure. I mean,
they're also leather bound. I have that. I'm like, they're leather bound. Even the one was signed by Lewis Carroll. I'm like, oh my gosh,
yeah.
I love that.
that was really cool.
And I like a little fangirl moment there.
The sad thing is, I could see Pizzazz nowadays going into Pawn Stars. How much is this worth?
Speaking of Pizzazz, I love the fact that she was scared of the book. It's like they tried to show her the book. She's like, no, get it away from me. There was no Rio in this episode,
which is awesome.
We'll make up for that later.
Yeah, I'm sure. And Bonnie wasn't too insufferable either. She was pretty cute in this one, so yeah.
Yeah, she was all right.
I
think the voice might have changed on her a little bit since the last time we saw her. She didn't sound as annoying as she was last time.
Yeah.
What about you, Nicole?
I pretty much adding on to you guys. The whole having the book as a treasure, I really like that. And I didn't have it written down here. The girl that tripped and hurt herself, that ended up with the Starlight Girls. I liked it that she was the one that came up with the final answer.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was one of those good moments. Like, you know what? Yeah, I could be a tough kid, but I also have the smarts. I have street smarts and I have book smarts, and I'm like, that girl's gonna go places, And I hope she did. So
yeah.
And I just love how I loved how they brought in all the different environments for the treasure hunt. I mean, like the sword fighting and the pirates, and
it was all themed. It was like this is a cosplayer's favorite episode. Right?
I know. It's just like, this is so much fun, and then it makes you want to go and read those stories about Sinbad's adventures, and was D'Artagnan really a ladies' man? So,
apparently.
Yeah.
Well, he was played by Chris O'Donnell for Disney, so...
Yeah. I still love that show, man. I still love it. Tim Curry. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, Tim Curry, you got Kiefer and, what's his bucket?
Charlie.
But
Charlie
see,
Oliver Platt,
those guys were awesome.
Oliver Platt was my favorite.
Porthos. Yeah. Porthos was great.
I got this sword for the Queen of America.
You idiot. Fun. There is no Queen of America.
I beg to differ. Can I go back and watch that?
Oh, jeez. Awesome sauce. We've already hijacked this episode again.
I just remember, I saw that in the theater 3 different times. And you got to remember, I did not live near a theater. So that was a good issue.
Yeah. I'll
Yeah.
say this outside of like any animated like Mickey and the Musketeers and that like any kind of animated Three Musketeers thing. Outside of that, the actual story of the Three Musketeers, the only two good ones that I enjoy are the Disney Three Musketeers and Man in the Iron Mask.
Oh, that's a good
Um,
one. That's a good one.
the other more updated Three Musketeers movies, it's not my bucket of tea. But anyway,
I think
anything
those are the
else
only ones that
for?
I've actually seen. So I'm like, hey, there are other ones.
There's The Musketeer, which was like, it
I'll have to go look
was
at.
it was entertaining,
Yeah.
but it was way out of
You
place.
can't undo the comedy factor. You always have to have some comedy factor in there. That's why the Disney one works so well, is because it was
Exactly.
so entertaining. So
Let me
anyhow,
know if you ever want to see Michael Knight and Arnie Becker in a Three Musketeer movie.
oh my gosh, I think you just broke my brain.
We are going to take a quick song break, come back with Misfit Moments after this.
Open a book and see where it takes you. See the way time flies. Open a book and see how it makes you open up your eyes. Open a book and be transported to a world you never knew. Follow a rainbow till down a windmill, track down a missing clue. Open a book. In between the pages, what wonders you will find. Open a book and open up your mind. Open a book and open up your mind. Open a book. In between the pages, what wonders you will find. Open a book. Open a book and open up your mind. Open a book and open up your mind. Open a book and open up your mind. Open a book and open up your mind.
All right, Misfit Moments for the treasure hunt. Honestly, I don't have much to complain about with this one. I thought it was a very solid episode. I wish Pizzazz would have kind of followed the rules a little bit more.
Yeah, but
Pizzazz.
it's part
But
of
it
her
wouldn't-
personality to break the rules. When have they ever played fair?
Never. They might actually get ahead in life if they did. But,
They probably would.
What about you,
So-
Amy?
I don't know why I put this in here, but I put the Eric, get rid of them. I hate kids. But maybe it's just a really memorable misfit moment because Pizzazz said that. I thought it was hilarious. I should have put that in the hologram moments though. Let's see here. I thought Bonnie walking across I knew one of the girls were going to fall in. The fact that
Well,
Bonnie
yeah.
did, it was like, aw. She might not have been able to swim. Why did she go across that?
I know.
Well, when she fell in, she stood up. She was standing in the damn water, so it couldn't have been that deep.
And then she
Oh, I
floated
thought
away.
she floated away.
Did she?
Yeah.
I don't know.
She
I
got
don't
saved by, was it Hiawatha?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Some of the girls' voices were the holograms. I know they tried to make it
Yeah.
sound like other people, but I did kind of catch a couple of them that were,
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
Sue
sounded
Blue's
like
voice
Kimber.
Well, yeah, but, Sue Blue's voice is unmistakable.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what she does. I mean, whether it's Stormer, whether it's RC, whether it's whatever. Hell, even her as Flim Flam, I recognize and knew it was Sue Blue.
Damn. Awesome.
Mhm.
But yeah, I just had to point out that some of the girls' voices sounded like other characters. I was like, ah. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's understandable because, I mean, why hire a whole new cast of characters for just one episode, you know? So,
Yeah. Well, and plus, back in those days, you were allotted 3 voice roles if they needed you to do 3
oh,
voice
geez, that was more than what Frank. My brain is not working.
Welker.
Frank Welker
Welker.
was doing in other things.
roles. Right,
Right,
but
was-
I'm saying like the 80s, and every time I've heard interviews from any of the people that did voices in the 80s, they've said that they
Did up to
we
3
could only
characters. Yeah.
do up to 3 characters per session.
Gotcha.
If they wanted us to do more, they had to pay us more or whatever it was.
Gotcha.
What about you, Nicole?
That's the only thing I had was the voice acting. It was too similar to the hologram voices, but like I said, that was nitpicking.
Yeah, that was me nitpick. That was pretty much the only thing I could really nitpick on
That's
it.
the only thing I have down too. So
Yeah.
I had fun with this episode.
It was fun.
Yeah. All right, we're going to move on to the last episode of the day after this.
I look in your eyes and I go on a journey. One look and I'm swept away. I look in your eyes and I'm transported. The modern world just slips away. Aztec enchantment has got me in its spell. Aztec enchantment, is it real? Who can tell? The pyramids that touch the skies, what a fantasy. It's Aztec enchantment whenever you're with me. A touch of your hand and I feel like flying. One touch and I'm off the ground. A touch of your hand and there's no denying. There's magic all around. Aztec enchantment has got me in its spell. Aztec enchantment, is it real? Who can tell?
Finally up today is Aztec Enchantment. The air date was October 7th, 1987. The Misfits join up with Clash, who was just given a video camera by her father, and hit Mexico to ruin Gem and the Holograms' new music video directed by Video at the ruins of an ancient Aztec temple. Also, the Holograms befriend a poor young boy who wants to go to the United States.
Paco!
I would have rather had the Taco Bell dog show up in this
Yo quiero
episode.
Taco Bell.
Oh,
I
God.
loved that little dog.
I think everybody did.
The guy that did his voice was on Reno 911.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
This one was kind of straightforward. It was kind of average, actually.
Yeah.
It just really was.
I think it's because the last 2 episodes we just talked about were such good heavy hitters. Well,
Yeah.
I'd say, and this is kind of like the step back and let's take a breather kind of episode.
It's like another one of those theme ones that we've had where go to China, go to the winter ski thing.
And like I said before, it makes sense. They're a band. They're going to travel a lot.
Yeah.
Even if they're going on tours and stuff. So.
And of course, they'd be looking for like a really hot location that could send them, set them apart from every place else. Because, it's always good to have a good background. Your music is great, but to have a really great video, you have to have a really good location. So, yeah.
Between any kind of production in Hollywood and real estate, location.
Yep.
This one was all right. I don't know. It just didn't really gel with me too much. Like, there weren't too many things that I actually liked about it, but there weren't too many things it's just kind of there. It's very middle ground for me as far as the plot goes. Hopefully Paco will never return.
I don't think he does, actually.
I mean, because, last year I come off of doing He-Man and the Masters of the Universe with my buddy Optimus Solo. We covered all 130 episodes in a 45-episode podcast. And there are so many annoying kids in that cartoon series. So many. So,
Even though it's a kid show.
Still, there's certain ways to write children that aren't going to annoy people.
Yeah.
And they did not do, they wrote kids as very, very annoying characters.
It's like, this is a kid show, and we're going to portray our listening audience in this way. What?
Yeah. What'd you think of the plot on this one, Amy?
I was all right with it, because I was like, it's the generic plot that we've had before. Although it's a completely different theme, it made sense because now that we have Rhea and she is that kind of the Latino kind of representation in the show, which I liked because, you know, it gives her kind of this exotic feel to her. But, you know, even Aja has an exotic kind of flair to her as well, in a sense.
It's the
I
big
would say-
hair. It's the big hair.
It's the big hair, but they all have big hair. No, it's just she's got blue hair, and you know, when we went to China, you know, she
I would
spoke
say
the
with
language.
I would say with Aja, she has the Oriental feel.
Yeah, true. She's the Oriental feel. Although they could pull her off even more Oriental than they actually have her. But,
True.
you know, her voice probably is the only thing that they can really work with. And Rhea kind of comes across the same way too, other than the fact that sometimes they make her skin tone just slightly browner than the rest of them, you know. But I've met a lot of people from lots of different places that, you know, the brown is almost a cliche thing too, depending on where you're coming from, because different Latino areas of the countries all over the world, they don't all have that brown look. So it just depends on where you're coming from. But that being said, it made sense because this kind of, you know, in a way kind of pulls her forward a little bit, because she has a reaction to being, of course, in Mexico and in an area where she feels an affiliation to the people around her. And so it's kind of cool to see her get a chance to take a step forward, because she hasn't since the beginning of this season. She's just kind of been there, and now we're having her kind of step forward. And, you know, there's a little bit of a theme that kind of works with her character. We'll get that, of course, with Jeddah and in other episodes later on. So it's like she's the fourth hologram, and it makes sense that, you know, hey, we'll have an episode that kind of brings her forward a little bit while we, you know, kind of build a little bit on her character. So, I mean, it wasn't exclusively a Rhea centric episode, but it was just kind of good to see that in that sense. So,
Yeah. What about you, Nicole?
Like you said, it was right straight down the middle. It wasn't like I hated the episode. I enjoyed it, but it didn't have like that kick in the pants, like, oh my gosh, this is so good.
Yeah.
I kind of like the exotic location. I would love to go to the Aztec temples and stuff. I think that'd be awesome.
All as I can think of is that one episode from G1 when Starscream and Thundercracker are fighting on a pyramid. That's all I can think of when I look at this. I forgot to mention earlier, but the songs are Aztec Enchantment, Gem and the Holograms. Then we have two reuses: Welcome to the Jungle, which I still cannot stand that song, by the Misfits, and Love Will Show Me the Way, or Show the Way, which again, that just, I don't know, that one just didn't feel right for this one. Also, it has taken me 10 episodes of the podcast to realize the opening sequence animation is different when the Gem Girls theme is on. There's no Misfits animation. See, I thought they just took the Gem Girls theme song and just put it over top of the one thing, but they actually cut out the Misfits altogether when that song is playing.
I'll have to go back and look at that again.
Yep. Any other thoughts on the plot?
No, I think we'll get into it with Misfits and hologram moments.
Agreed.
All right. We're going to get to the hologram moments after this.
There's an animal on the loose. She's a creature on the prowl. There's an animal on the loose, and she's getting ready to howl. Welcome to the jungle. Welcome to the jungle. Welcome to the jungle. She don't care. She ain't the type that plays it down. Welcome to the jungle. There is danger in her eyes as she moves in on her prey. There is danger in her eyes. If you're smart, keep out of her way. Welcome to the jungle. Welcome to the jungle. Welcome to the jungle. Welcome to the jungle. Watch your back, and any second she'll attack. Welcome to the jungle. If you see her smile, better run, because in a little while she'll reveal her claws. Welcome to the jungle. Welcome to the jungle. Welcome to the jungle.
All right, for hologram moments. Eric, why is there never any quicksand when you need it? I can't tell if he I can't tell if he wants it for himself or the Misfits. I really cannot tell.
I really do enjoy Eric. I do.
He has his moments where he's just this awesome.
He's such a douchebag, but to me, he makes the show, and I love it.
Yep. And I wrote this in my hologram moments, but obviously we'll be talking about it in the Misfit moments, and I'm like, uh-oh, Rio's in the Aztec Enchantment video. 3, 2, 1 for Nicole's complaint department. What do you got, Amy?
It's good to see the consistency with Clash being on the outside of the Misfits event. Again, they're, you're not gonna. It just, I feel bad for her because she's trying so hard. She's done so much for them. She's sacrificed and she's, betrayed and she's backstabbed for them, and yet she's still not one of them. Oh, poor Clash. A good gotcha moment with the bridge and the earthquake, because I thought, oh no, they're. Technically speaking, I really don't think that they would have gotten off the bridge because they were in the middle of it when that happened. But
That's
still,
the first part to collapse.
yeah. Glad, but of course, if they hadn't made it, then we wouldn't be talking about the show anymore because they'd be dead. So,
Yeah.
Go ahead. Pizzazz and technology again. Helicopter cash. Helicopter. Wow. It's a helicopter there. Where you go? Helicopter crash because she can't keep her hands off the controls. But here's the other part that's hilarious about that. You think that they wouldn't let her sit in the front seat so close to the controls. Oh, goodness.
Helicrapper.
Yeah, that's going to be the outtake for the episode. It's a helicopter. Woohoo!
Helicrapper.
It flies by the crap of your pants.
That's when you've had too much Taco Bell the day before.
Wow.
Don't make it in the toilet.
Okay, it's hilarious that Clash loses her tape while recording Welcome to the Jungle, because I thought that was just so funny. Every single time you see Clash videoing something else is happening to the video. Something's happening to the video recorder, or she's losing the tape, or it's funny. I laughed through that whole video recording of Welcome to the Jungle. Double crossers always double cross, so it's good to see that. It was good to. I know that we're kind of being a little critical of Paco, but it's good to see that he's the hero in this episode instead of Rio, because just to have a switch. Poor Misfits, that things don't work out and they have a terrible time.
That's an understatement.
Yeah. Actually, I think there was a point in there where I was like, hey, didn't the Misfits come here? Did we forget about them? Because with all the double crossing and stuff that was going on with the professor that they meet, they kind of get lost. It's like they get lost and then you just don't hear back from them for a while. They're like, oh, till the very end, and they're like, oh, we're gonna save them. Yay.
Which I know Gem and the Holograms, they are the bigger people. They're not going to be as cruel as the Misfits, but I'm sorry. They should have not saved the Misfits, because the Misfits didn't give them any help. And I know an eye for an eye, everyone gets blind and whatever else, but it's just like, really, seriously, they're gonna help them anyway.
It's very the idea that they'd actually run into them after that, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a big place. The coincidence of being able to run into them afterwards, that's very unlikely if they crashed a helicopter that you'd actually even meet up with them. So, if they even survived the crash. Oh, but what do you know? Hollywood magic, or Holly magic, whatever.
Yep.
And I finally like the end that Paco finally decides to stay, because, I like my country after all, and I'm going to stay here and go to school and become a very great person. You do that, Paco. Vision to the people.
Nicole?
Let's see. The professor, well, the fake professor, I thought he had a really good comeback about today's music. Yeah, he wasn't a fan, apparently. Rhea's Princess Leia buns are awesome.
I love that.
She looked cool with the Princess Leia buns. I'm like, not many people could get away with that look. She pulled it off really nice.
She did. And even though it was pink, I mean, it was really, really pink.
Yep. And the ape is still better than Rio. Can we get the ape? Yeah. So.
Recast.
Yeah,
it's not Rio anymore. It's Rio the ape.
Rio the ape. Yeah.
And Rico the ape.
I did enjoy that Paco stayed too. I have that as well, and so because he learned, just because you go to America, it's not going to just be better. It's not going to everything's going to be handed to you. You make your own future, and I really like that.
Yep, I agreed with that. That's a really good one too. Yep. Especially since the whole time he's like, I want to go to America. Take me to America. And I was like...
And I that moment with him and Rhea was really good because she's like, you just don't go to America and you get rich, And I'm like, you know what? I'm glad she came down to his level. She actually bent down and looked him eye to eye. I really liked that moment. That was really good.
Oh, it's very good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. We are going to move on to the Misfit Moments after this.
Hold on, I'll be there. Love will show the way. Take heart, don't despair. Love will show the way. Nothing can keep me from finding you. Love runs too deep to not come through. Love will show the way. Love will show the way. Keep on trying, cope. Love will show the way. Don't cry, don't lose hope. Love will show the way. Nothing can keep me from finding you. Love runs too deep to not come through. Love will show the way. Love will show the way. Nothing can keep me from finding you. Love runs too deep to not come through. Love will show the way. Love will show the way.
It is time for the Misfit Moments. Welcome to the jungle again. Yuck.
Welcome to the jungle.
You make it even more worse than it already was.
Oh, thanks.
No, because it just... And yes, I know Paco saved the day, and that's all well and good, but I'm sorry. He is so, somebody so needed to bend that kid over and whap him one. Oh my God.
He's an orphan.
Yeah,
I
haven't even teach him.
Well, he learned a few lessons in this episode then.
Well, just be thankful that he didn't go to America then. He stayed in his own country.
If he did, he could have hung out with Scott Tracker and T-Bob from Mass, because I honestly at this point don't know who's more annoying, them or him.
Or
anyway.
Paco. Feel the Paco hate here in this episode.
So, what about you, Amy?
I did notice a little error. Stormer's lips were moving the same time Pizzazz's were on the helicopter ride. And I just thought, well, okay, there you go. All their lips were... I think, actually, that when I looked at it again, I think all of their lips were moving, so you weren't quite sure. I knew it was Pizzazz, I think, that was talking, but it was just... Yeah, it was funny. I had to point that out. And then Eric, he repeats, I don't believe we survived.
Oh,
Twice.
I noticed that too.
And I was like, that was really odd. So I put it in there as my misfit moment because it seemed like an error.
It could be, but I mean,
like he said it with the same inflection and everything. That's why I thought
he did, and it could have been. But if you think about it, you're that scared you're gonna die in a helicopter crash especially if you're going to die in a helicopter crash.
Yeah.
You're
just,
gonna, it's like
come out smelling pretty bad.
Oh.
You might be a little brown.
Yeah.
You're going to want to throw all your clothes away. Wow. Okay, I'm going to keep riding.
Good night, everybody.
You said Yeah, Amy's the one that derailed this one, people, for sure. Wasn't my fault. Not my fault.
Oh, it just reminds me of that part in Jurassic Park where the guy comes up and says, "Yeah, that's a real big pile of shit."
Yep. Exactly.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay.
Go ahead.
So yeah, well, I just thought it was, him saying, "I don't believe we survived." I think he said it twice, maybe because everybody was ignoring him anyhow.
Yeah, that's what I took out of it.
Oh, poor Eric. I don't believe you guys survived either. I think he was just expressing all of our
I can't believe we
disbelief.
survived.
The helicopter crash.
Helicopter. Hmm.
Oh gosh. Okay. Moving
Oh
on.
God! You put a helicopter blade on Skylinks. He's a helicopter. Anyway,
He was already a helicopter before.
yeah.
He's a hell of a crapper because he's shit. Skylinks is shit.
Lord. All right. So, getting to the Rio complaint department.
Where should we start? Okay. Rio's horrible. I'll just keep it simple. He just okay. First of all, Jem would have never survived that fall in the well. I mean,
Yeah.
we all saw 300, right? I had that. This is Sparta moment. I'm like, no, she would have survived that fall, and then
It's very likely that she could have whacked her head on the side and
exactly,
down to the
and
bottom.
then she becomes the girl from The Ring. So...
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Talk about geek crossover here. Woo.
I did. I totally crossed it over. We had 300. We have The Ring and Gem and Holograms. There you go. Well, I don't get why the professor split her up with the rest of the group. Why did he only want her, and then
She
he
was the
trapped?
ringleader.
I know.
Because she was the ringleader and he was going to push her down the well.
I know, but why
Of
did
course, if they
like,
had picked any one of them, it would have done the same thing too.
Yeah, I just don't get why that didn't really come clear to me why he split them up. But anyways,
Because somehow he secretly knows that this is a kid show and Jem is the main character.
That's true.
And
That's
so
true.
he's like, I will do something evil to this girl.
And after this episode, can we officially announce that Jem and Rio are together? Because that's definitely making them out to be a couple.
Except when Jerica is involved.
I know, and
It's a really bad threesome.
I'm just sick of it. I'm just sick of it.
I know.
Make up your mind. Yeah, those are my complaints. So.
All right, that's going to do it for this episode. We're going to take a quick break and hear some other musical selections and ads and all that other good stuff. And we'll be back with Final Thoughts and ratings after this.
Jem will be right back after these messages.
It's action. It's drama. It's comedy. It's Decian, the superhero webcomic. Decian's got superhero antics and sexy girls. Read it now at Decian.com. DASIEN.com.
Seasons come, seasons go, but you're always there in my heart. Raindrops fall, breezes blow, but you're always there in my heart. Photos fade, youth is gone, but you're always there in my heart. Time goes by, life goes on, but you're always there in my heart. You're a part of me, as I am of you. I can't leave you behind. You're a part of me, and whatever I do, you're always on my mind. Through the years, joy and tears, you're always there in my heart. Always near, ever dear. You're always there in my heart. Always
The Powers of Grayskull series will cover every episode of all 4 Masters of the Universe cartoons. Join Optimus Solo and myself, TF2 and Mike, as we tell tales of Eternia, discover the myths of Etheria, become masters in space, and finally masters of Grayskull. We'll have a commentary on the Secret of the Sword film, and a few other special episodes. You can find this 125 episode long podcast in iTunes and on the web at geekcastradio.com. By the power and honor of Grayskull, we all have the power.
Hurry, Skeletor, hurry! I am hurrying, I'm hurrying!
And now, back to Jam.
Alright, we are back, and it is time for final thoughts and ratings on the 3 episodes today. Amy, what are you going to give Father's Day?
Okay, I know that it sort of ends abruptly, but to me, I can't really see a way for them to have ended it any other way. I think I think it would have negated the authenticity of Pizzazz's character if she would have suddenly just had this moment with her dad that Jem's music brought her to. But yeah, because they have the whole music thing, and she still has this. She's just, you could tell she's still upset, and she's not going to get over it right away. So I'm glad they kind of just kept with it on that it works for her character. So. The fact that they couldn't have, but they didn't change that. I think it was really brave and true to the voice that they set in the story. So I can't knock it for that. It does lose its meaning because it ended so abruptly, just a little bit. I think just slightly, just because it ends just so boom. It's there, it's done. So I'm only going to knock it like a half point for that. But for me, it's still a really incredibly great episode. It's a very authentic episode. So I rated it a 4.5.
All right. What about you, Nicole?
I really enjoyed this episode, and I think it's going to stay with me now that I've watched it. And I could hardly find anything. I'm giving it a 5. I'm going to say it's just close to perfect as this series is going to get. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same way. I'm going to give it a 5. I mean, yeah, I do wish that the execution of the rest of the holograms, trying to talk to Kimber was done a little bit better. But I mean, overall, it was very usually when we watch these cartoons, whether it's Gem, whether it's Transformers, whatever, there's usually like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different things that pop out at me like, oh God, that would never work. They wouldn't do. None of that happened here.
Yeah.
So
it's funny. I'm the one that had the most to say about it, and I'm the one that half pointed it.
You heartless wench!
I
know.
You rat! You dirty rat! You killed my brother!
I think this is the highest rated that we've had, isn't it?
Outside of the 5-parter, in season that started the series, probably, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What about the treasure hunt?
It's almost a perfect score. It's like a half point off because of me. Somebody's got to be the owner, right?
Dinner.
Oh boy. What about the treasure hunt, Amy?
I rated it a 3. I don't have any reason other than the fact that it was a fun episode. It seemed pretty kind of average after the last episode. So yeah, I just it was fun. So.
Nicole?
I gave this one a 4, just because I wanted to be those girls. I wanted to do the treasure hunt, and I really had a fun time going back and learning about these stories, and yeah, I really had a lot of fun with it.
For me, I'm going to give it a 4.5. I really enjoyed it. I think that it's so hilarious that Pizzazz felt gypped at the end. Like, if she would have just gone along with it and gone against her character type and, kind of had an emotional moment, it would have gotten a 5 from me. But yeah, overall 4.5 for me on that one. And what about Aztec Enchantment?
I'm going to rate this one a 3.5. 3.5 on that one. I don't know why. I liked the last one, but I don't know. I have no idea.
Nicole?
Like I said, this was one of those episodes. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't great. It was just here's a good breather episode, like I said before. Right down the middle, 2.5.
I am right there with you because this, compared to the other two, this was just bad episode. Certain songs, when they reuse them, I don't mind them because it makes sense in the reuse, how they put it together to reuse it, but I'm sorry, Welcome to the Jungle is one of the worst Misfit songs that they've ever done. I'm sorry. No.
I think that it was entertaining just to watch Video lose her, or not Video, but Clash.
Clash,
Lose her camera, things fall on it, to have her tape pulled out, lose everything. The entertainment factor of that, so it didn't bother me. They did different things with the music video, so that's why it gained something else for it because it was so funny during the video thing. But yeah, that was just me. That's why I rated it a little bit higher.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right, so that's going to do it for this episode of Showtime Synergy. Thank you for joining us. There are several ways to get in contact with us to leave feedback for the show. Visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on this and all our other episode posts. Leave the show's feedback in iTunes. Please do this. Follow us on Twitter, at geekcastradio is the network Twitter. Mine is TFG and Mike. Amy, what is your Twitter?
Lady of Wreck.
And Nicole?
Beatles Diva, that's Beatles like the band, not the bug.
Become a fan on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/geekcastradio network. Call the voicemail line. No, don't. We hope you enjoyed the latest episode of Showtime Synergy. Wish you'll join us next time, and we'll be reviewing the next 3 episodes of Jim and the Holograms, Season 2, those being Music is Magic, The Jazz Player, and It's Dance Time. For now, I am M with...
Hello, a snarky person.
And the girl to rock your socks off. Woo!
Tune in next time and help us get truly outrageous with Showtime Synergy.
Aloha.
Bye-bye.
I hate you both.
Me and my